Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my son's birth story because my oldest son is asleep and my mom's here. So she's watching my son who I'm telling the birth story about today, and so I figured I'm going to go ahead and make this video while it's still somewhat fresh in my mind. I was going over some of the details with her, so I was like, okay, I feel refreshed in my memory. I'm gonna go ahead and do this video. So it all started at like 36 weeks and 2 days. So at 36 weeks and 2 days, I was having like a nesting day because up until that point, I didn't really do like much nesting. I had sanitized some things. I had just tried to start doing some nesting things like a little earlier that week. This is a Friday, by the way, and so I was kind of like trying to get more of that done because I was like, I could be having a baby at 30 weeks or so. If I get induced, like who knows? So I better get to my nesting things. Little did I know, the baby was gonna be coming sooner than that. So that day I was sanitizing things and I was trying to clean. I packed my hospital bag. I was touching up paint in the nursery. I was painting a new like peg panel that we had put up in there. And that morning I actually had went to the bathroom and I flushed, and when I flushed I noticed like a little bit of pink on the toilet paper, I thought, but I wasn't sure because I didn't look before flushing and I just saw it as it was going down. So I was like, oh, I'll wait till later. Next time I go to the bathroom and we'll see like what's going on, if I have anything or if it just was like in my head. So when I was painting the wall in his nursery, I had to go to the bathroom and I went pee. When I wiped, I had lots of pink and it was my mucus plug. I didn't know then, but I took a picture. I showed my mom because she was here watching Remy while I painted. And I also sent a picture to my sister that's a labor and delivery nurse. There's some work going on outside, so if you hear it, sorry about that. But then I also called my doctor and they didn't answer, and so I left a message and I was like, I'll just wait to see what they say. But my mom thought it was a mucus plug because my sister had went into labor a month earlier and lost her mucus plug and it looked like that. My sister, who's a labor and delivery nurse, thought it was bloody show. So maybe it was a mix of bloody show and my mucus plug. When I got the call back from my doctor, they thought it was the mucus plug. Sorry about the noises, but anyways, they said that I didn't need to come in because I had an appointment on Monday, and sorry, I was not expecting that to be going on, but anyways, I didn't need to come in till Monday unless I had bright red blood showing or I started to have contractions, like I was going into labor. So they said they just plan on seeing me Monday unless I need to go to the hospital over the weekend. So when Andrew got home, my mom was like, let me take Remy so that, you know, in case you go into labor tonight, I have him already. And I was like, no, I'm not going into labor, like just go home, thank you, but I'll just have Remy here tonight. But as the night went on, I lost more of my mucus plug. And Andrew was like, I'll just feel better if I take him to your mom. So at his bedtime, he ended up taking him to my mom's, and then we just went to bed. I didn't go into labor. Woke up the next day and my mom came back with Remy because I wanted to spend as much time with him before the baby came. And she ended up just like doing all the rest of the nesting for me. She cleaned my kitchen. She helped Andrew clean bathrooms. That was so nice. And she also helped keep Remy entertained because they were like, you need to rest, because I bet all the nesting from the day before is what made everything happen. So I was just like kind of resting and trying not to get up as much as possible and they were just really helping me check off the rest of my nesting list. So that night we had planned to have some friends over around 6. My mom was going home and she was going to take Remy with her, but again I was like, no, everything's fine, like we'll just keep Remy with us. Our friends are coming at 6 for dinner. If we need you, we'll let you know. So my mom went home and we're planning on our friends coming, but around like 3 I started to have contractions, and they weren't very close together yet. They were like 20 minutes to 13 minutes, like they were pretty spread out. And I messaged my sister, who's a labor and delivery nurse, just to like let her know, like, hey, I've lost my mucus plug and now I'm having contractions, like what does this mean? And she's like, you should be fine, like unless your contractions get like 5 minutes or less apart, like you should be good. So I went about my day, and then later, I want to say around like 4:30 or so, my contractions started getting really close together, like 8 minutes apart. So I reached out again, and I was like, they're pretty consistently 8 minutes apart. She's like, that's fine, blah, blah, blah. So I kept going, and then about closer to 5, I was like, okay, now they're 5 minutes apart or under 5 minutes. What do I do? And she was like, lay on the couch, drink water, and monitor them for the next hour and see what happens. So I started tracking my contractions on an app and laying on the couch and drinking water, and they were getting so close together. They were getting 3 minutes apart, and then they were under 3 minutes apart, and I was starting to be in a lot of pain. And it was 5 minutes till 6, and I told our friends, like, hey, don't come over anymore. Luckily they were running behind and hadn't left yet anyways, but I was like, I think I had to go to the hospital because I'm about to have a baby, it seems. And so I called my mom over. She came back. She got Remy so that we could go to the hospital, and our hospital is 45 minutes away where my doctor delivers, but we also have one 5 minutes away from our house. And I was contemplating whether I should just go to the hospital that's 5 minutes away, because I literally thought like I wasn't going to make it to the hospital. That's how much my contractions were close together and like painful. And we got in the car, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do, but I was just like thinking, okay, wait, I can talk through these contractions, so I'm not going to go into labor at this very second. Let's try to go to the one that's 45 minutes away. And there is a hospital halfway to that hospital, so I had a backup plan if things went, baby in the car mode. But I also made sure to have a blanket down in the car and everything. So anyways, we go to the hospital, and on the way there, I'm having my contractions like under 3 minutes apart. They're like 2 minutes 30 seconds or so apart, but I'm able to talk through them. I was able to laugh in between, but they were really painful. But by the time we got to the hospital, I felt like they had slowed down a little bit because we were walking in the hospital and stuff, and like they felt like farther than like 3 minutes apart. But they checked me, they got me to triage, and I was 2 centimeters dilated, which usually isn't enough to be admitted, but they must have been slow or something, because they were like, you can continue to labor, or we could try to stop your labor. And I was super emotional over that decision, because I just like didn't want to make the wrong decision. Like, if he needed to cook more, I wanted to let him cook more. And if he like needed to be born then, like how was I supposed to know? Like it was a hard decision for me to make. So I just asked the doctor, like, what would you do? And she said I would try to let him cook more. So I decided to slow the labor or try to stop it. And They gave me a shot in my arm that stung really bad, but it really relaxed me, and it did slow the contractions. I was still having them, but it really relaxed me. They also gave me fluids, and then I think it was like 2 hours later, they gave me another shot, the same shot, and that really, really relaxed me and actually stopped the contractions, and they monitored me for like 2 more hours, and I was so sleepy and so comfy and so relaxed, and my contractions had completely stopped, so they sent me home, and I had no contractions all the way home, but as soon as we got out of the car, contractions. So they were really mild and very far apart. I was able to fall asleep, but through the night I had contractions every like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes. They were like bouncing all around. So I did not get much sleep. And the next day I woke up still having those contractions, and I was just feeling bummed that I had stopped the labor, because now I was having all these contractions, but they weren't like close together, and I wasn't like getting anywhere, I thought. And I was like, oh, was it pointless to have stopped it? But I was like, at the same time, I'm allowing him to grow more inside me, so I feel good about that. But I was also kind of being 36 weeks, I was at a good point to like have continued my labor, but also at the same time they want you to get to 37 weeks, so it was just hard. But I think I made the right decision. I hope I made like, my son is good and well, but it was stressful at the time, and just having labor pains, but like, you know, being at home and not getting any sleep before actually going into labor was just like frustrating. But that day, me and my husband stayed home, and my mom kept Remy, and I just stayed on the couch all day. And my mom kept Remy because I was just gonna stay on the couch all day, and I wanted him to have like fun. So she did bring him like for lunch or dinner, I can't remember, just so I could see him, because I was like missing him. And it was just like hard that, because he had like never been away from me very much. Like, just we went on a little baby moon that was just like a one night thing away, and then all of a sudden he's like staying at my mom's like every night, and I was just feeling sad. But that prepared me for after our other son was born. But anyways, I'll get to that later. But anyways, that night I actually was feeling like decent. They were spaced out to like 30 minutes apart, and so I took a shower and I straightened my hair just in case I went into labor that night. And or since I had a doctor's appointment that Monday in the morning, I thought they might possibly send me to the hospital to be induced if I wasn't in labor already. So I just wanted to be ready in the morning for labor or at night. So I just wanted to have straight, clean hair. And so I did that, and then we just watched a movie. I went to bed. I had some contractions through the night, pretty spaced out. By morning I was like having contractions, but they were really spaced out. I ate breakfast, we went to my appointment, and I was 5 centimeters dilated. I told my doctor like everything that happened, and then I was 5 centimeters dilated, and he's like, you know, you live 45 minutes away. Let's just have you go over to the hospital, because I don't want you to drive 45 minutes back home just to go into labor and be right back. So I went to the hospital. They induced me with Pitocin, which I had never had Pitocin. I was induced for my other 2 labors, but with the pill they give you to like help you dilate. But because I was already dilated to 5, they had me on Pitocin, and it actually wasn't bad. I actually was not getting any contractions, which was like bumming me out, because I had all those contractions close together, and here we are 2 days later, and now they're inducing me, even though I like had stopped labor. I was like, I should have just, you know, let it happen. But anyways, I wasn't having any contractions, but I was 5 centimeters dilated. And then my doctor wanted to bring my water, but I was like, I want to wait till I'm actually feeling contractions, because like I just want to like feel like I'm in labor before my water gets broken. And I waited a couple hours, and like it still was not like I wasn't having that many contractions, if any. But they checked me and I was 6 centimeters dilated, so I was like, okay, I guess you can break my water. So he broke my water, but I also did ask for the epidural before he broke my water, because my older son, like after they broke my water, the contractions were insane. So I did not want to experience that. So I had them break my water before the epidural. Or I had them give me the epidural before they broke my water. And so I had a very pain-free labor. And an hour after they gave me the epidural, I was already to a 7. And then 20 minutes after that, I was to like an 8 or 9. My doctor's like, you're an 8 or a 9. And so, yeah, I dilate pretty fast once my water's broken. So he was like, I think this baby's gonna come in like the next 30 minutes. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. But he wasn't quite like there, and I wasn't quite dilated. So they were giving me the peanut ball and stuff, and my doctor was gonna check in 30 minutes, and that's when his shift ended. So he comes in 30 minutes, and I'm not dilated yet. So he has to like hand me over to the next doctor basically, and he tells that doctor like everything that's happening. And the nurses just keep coming in, checking on me, giving me the peanut ball, have me switching positions so that I can dilate that last centimeter, and I'm not dilating that centimeter. And he's still up there, and 8 hours later, it's the same situation. And I had tried pushing a little before that, the 8th hour of being dilated to a 9. But I wasn't making progress, even though they said my pushes were like, I was doing the right thing, I was pushing well. So the doctor that was on call finally came into the room. He literally did not check on me in those 8 hours. And he was like, you failed. Like, I planned on you being the first to deliver when the other doctor went off his shift, and you're still going. Like, you failed, like you're pushing and you're failing and blah blah blah. And he just said like the word fail like 20 times, and me and my husband were just like looking at each other, and we almost like were laughing, because we're like, is this a joke? Like, we thought he was joking, because like, who says that? And I wasn't like super offended by it, because I was just like, you're a crappy doctor, like I'm doing everything fine. Like, I knew it didn't have anything to do with me, and the nurses knew that. But it was just like weird that he would even say that, because even if it did, why would you say that? Anyways, the nurse was like, she's actually pushing really well, perfectly in fact, but the baby is like stuck up in her bone. I think pubic bone or pelvic bone. My husband says pubic bone, but I thought it was pelvic bone, but who knows? One of those bones he was stuck behind. And so when I was practice pushing with my nurses, they would try to like reach up in there and like get him out of the bone while I was pushing, but he was just really stuck. So the doctor ended up like checking me, and like I pushed for him, and he saw that I was pushing right. He saw what was going on, and then he became nicer. But anyways, he's like, don't push or anything, like you can like have the next 2 hours to try to get him unstuck, like, and then I'll be back. So the nurses came in like 30 minutes later, and they're like, let's push. And I just went with it, because I thought, oh, that doctor's a jerk, like, you know, I'm just going to do what the nurses say. And so we pushed, and I pushed in like every single position. At this point, it's like the middle of the night, by the way, because I had been dilated for like 8 hours before we came to the point of like he's stuck. So anyways, we're pushing, and I'm literally getting in every position possible. Even though I had the epidural, like the nurse helped me into every position. I was on my knees. I was like literally, she was even researching ways to push online because I literally tried like every position possible and nothing was happening. Even though she said I was pushing like right, and it felt like right from like my previous birth, but just he was really stuck. So the doctor came in after like 2 hours of that and was like, oh, he is really stuck. Like they were gonna try to vacuum him, and I did not want that, but I was like letting them check because he's like, let me check and see if we can vacuum him out. And he's like, no, he's too high, I can't do that, and he's stuck. So basically they told me there's nothing else we can really do, he's stuck. I don't know what to tell you. They didn't say I had to have a C-section, but I was like, I'll do the C-section because I just want him to be okay. And I don't want to just like, I mean, I was just 8 hours at a 9. Like, I mean, I just want to get him out, make sure he's okay. Like, I don't know how long he could be stuck up there. So we decided on the C-section. The anesthesiologist came in and upped my dosage. Also, while I was pushing, I forgot to mention, I had not eaten breakfast since the morning, and it was already the morning of the next day, like early morning, but I had not eaten, and then I had Pitocin and fluids and the epidural and all that. So towards the end of my pushing, I like actually got sick to my stomach and had to throw up, and that was not fun. But I even kept pushing after that because I was like determined to get him out, but it just did not work. So anyways, the anesthesiologist came in to up my dosage of the epidural for the C-section. They prepped me. My husband was just like so bummed for me because he knew I wanted a vaginal delivery, but I was like total peace about it. Like at that point, I'm tired. I did everything I could. Like I had total peace. I just wanted to make sure he was okay. So they took me to the room and I was tired. It was like 5 in the morning. And so I was like, I'm just gonna sleep. So I was in and out of sleep like the whole time they were operating on me. And the doctor was like, this is a huge baby when he came out. Like his head, they're like, saw his head, they're like, he is huge. He's got to be 10 pounds. And I was like, absolutely no way. Because I was like 36 weeks. And like at that point, 36 weeks in 5 days, I think. 5 or 6 days, I don't know. 6 days because I was just about 37 weeks. And he's like, this is a huge baby. And I just like couldn't believe it because I was only just about 37 weeks. And they got him out and he wasn't making any noise, but I wasn't freaking out, even though I was like, I noticed he wasn't making any noise, but they weren't acting like scared or anything about it. And then they were like, hey buddy, like trying to get him to cry, and he wasn't. And my husband was like, Rhodes, and he was like, ah. So it was just cute that he like, it was almost like he knew his dad's voice and knew his name and started crying. But he was having a hard time breathing. He was like putting way too much effort into it. It was like like something was not right. So he needed help breathing, and they knew he needed to go to the NICU. They like cleaned him up and everything, and my husband was over there, but like because of that, he was gonna have to go to the NICU. But I did get to have him come up to me, and they placed him by my head, and he was like moving around like kind of like babies do, like to nurse or whatever, by my head. And I'll always remember that feeling, and like every time he does that now, like when I'm holding him, like it just reminds me of when he was born. And oh, it was just so sweet. And then they took him to the NICU, and that is just a whole nother story. But like having a C-section is one thing, and then having a C-section and then your baby going to the NICU is just like another thing, because it was just like nothing was going the way that I had hoped. But I'm just so thankful that he, you know, is here and well, and we were only in the NICU for about a week. And yeah, anyways, they stitched me up and everything after I delivered. And as they're wheeling me out, the doctor's like, I'm really sorry you had to have a C-section. And I was like, oh no, it's fine. I wasn't upset about the C-section, but if you're gonna say sorry to me about something, you can apologize for calling me a failure earlier. But I didn't say that, but I was like, why are you apologizing about the C-section? But anyways, they wheeled me to the NICU and I got to see him, but he was all hooked up to everything, and I just wasn't expecting that. I thought maybe he would be in the NICU just like for a little bit so they could, you know, check on him, get his breathing up, and then he could go to the room with us. But he was in the NICU for the following week, and he got better every single day. But it was so hard. Like, there were so many things I was hoping for this birth, and like one was like the golden hour, and just to have so much time together right when he came out, and just like skin on skin right away. And I didn't even get to hold him till the next day, and I didn't get to nurse him till like 2 days after, and like nothing really went the way I wanted to. And it was just such a bummer, and I was just like, it wasn't the situation I wanted, but I also was just very thankful, and I feel like I had a really good attitude while it was going on. And I do think that one positive to him being in the NICU is that like we were at the hospital for the week. I got to catch up on sleep, even though I was also pumping, you know, for him. But I also just got to have like the first week of just time with him, and like going to the NICU, coming back, and all that. It was hard with the C-section. It also helped me heal with the C-section because I didn't have like, I wasn't home with my toddler, but also that was also hard because I wasn't home with my toddler. He was literally staying at grandparents for a whole nother week when, like I said earlier, like he had only slept at someone's house like once before all this, and he was like staying at the grandparents' houses like for almost a whole week. So it was just like, there were hard parts to it, and there were nice parts, like, you know, healing for a week in the hospital before coming home. That was very helpful, even though I still had so much more healing to do when I got home. But anyways, the NICU story isn't really the birth story, but it's a big part of that time. But that is my son's birth story, and the birth itself wasn't like bad. Like the C-section, I was so scared to have a C-section before, like when I was pregnant, but then in that moment I had so much peace about it, and it actually like everything went so smoothly. Like I would absolutely do it again if I had to. My first choice would be a vaginal delivery, but it really wasn't a bad experience. The NICU part was the upsetting part, but labor itself went smoothly, and then until it stopped, and then we had the C-section, but the C-section went smoothly and everything. So I'm just thankful, because things could have been a lot worse. But yeah, that is my son's birth story. It went from going into labor on my own to being induced to a C-section. So a little bit of everything there. You know, you never know what you're gonna get, and that's what we got. And I'm just thankful we're both healthy and well. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one.